Hello, welcome back to Foos Entertainment. This time for my review of the 30th anniversary in 4K restoration from Studio Canal of 1990's Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Just a little snap case off. See what actual 4K Blu-Ray collection looks like. Now, this is actually a pretty big collection. You actually have the 4K version here. And I believe this might be the 2K version, but it might just simply be a bonus materials disc. No, this is the 2K version. This right here is the bonus materials disc. Alright, well, a lot of people have problems with this one. So let's go ahead and get through the bullshit of everybody's little problems that they have. Alright. For all you theater enthusiasts out there, you do realize that the maximum quality and preferred listening level for a theatrical experience of a movie is 70 knots, right? I don't really do that often. There's very few films out there that require me to put the sound system at 70 knots. Usually I do at 65 knots. But 70 knots is where you're actually supposed to get the full immersive experience of a sound design of a movie. And this is one of those cases to where, yeah, in order to get the benefit of everything when it comes to the experience, you put out 70 knots. 70 knots is usually where you're supposed to put everything, because this is what KJs and DJs, as well as sound designers and all that stuff, they actually put the volume at 70 knots for the full enrichment of what that gives you. All right. If you put this movie at 70 knots, this brand new Dolby Atmos sound presentation is actually pretty good. All right, well, let's go on to the synopsis of the movie real quick, and then I'll go into my opinion and talk about the quality in a little more depth. And I'll make this synopsis pretty quick. Got a lot to do today. All right. Let's see what year this takes place. Yeah, okay. In the year 2084, about 60 years from now, 60 years so from now, a construction worker, a suburban husband, has visions of Mars in his dreams, and he is obsessed with the controversial red planet. And his wife, of course, hates Mars, and basically he goes to this memory implant place that promises memories of Mars is a substitute for an actual vacation to Mars. When going to this place called Recall, they bring to the surface a repressed personality that happened to be living in him, almost like a double identity. And he finds out that he is not all who he seems to be, that he actually is a double agent. And he finds out that basically who he feels he really is the new identity that he was given, and who he was is somebody he doesn't want to be. When he discovers that it was all part of a coup to slaughter and murder the rebels who simply just want more freedom and prostration on Mars, and to bring on a new world order pretty much on Mars. And so he tries to go against who he really is and embrace who he has become by becoming the savior of Mars, by taking on its repressors in turning on a ancient machine that literally gives Mars an atmosphere, makes it very similar to Earth. But then at the end of the film, we are left with the question, is it all a dream? And part of his dream vacation that he gets out this memory implant place called Recall. He also has this new girlfriend, I might add. He represents dreams that he had before he went to Recall as well. So it all kind of makes you think at the end of the film, is it all a dream? Or is it all real? And that's pretty much the synopsis right there in a quick form, right at you in very quick context. But there's not really much. It's a pretty generic plot, but very, very, very interesting. All right, well, the quality. Okay. First, my opinion of the movie. I've always been a fan of Total Recall. In fact, I have actually owned every single subsequent DVD and Blu-ray release of this movie. And I've watched every release several times. So I can tell you exactly the differences between all those previous releases and this one. Okay. I like this movie. I thought this movie was way ahead of its time. Now, is this movie accurate to the short story We Can Remember for Your Whole Cell by Philip K. Dick? No, it's not. Believe it or not, the remake of Total Recall with Colin Farrell is accurate to that short story. This movie is not. In fact, the short story that this is based off of is nothing like this. Nothing. Not a single thing like it. Except for the basic premise of Douglas Quaid being Carl Hauser. But the difference is in the short story is Carl Hauser used to be a bad guy, but then decided to become a good guy. And so the whole double-crossing Quaid and saying, oh yeah, the whole point of view was to go ahead and infiltrate the rebels and kill them so he could kill the leader. That's not in the short story. Carl Hauser literally is a good guy. And Douglas Quaid is pretty much our villains manipulating Carl Hauser and turn him into somebody else. That's literally what it is. And so the new movie with Colin Farrell is actually more accurate to the short story, not this one. But this film is still one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Schwarzenegger film is this one. I like this better than the Terminator movies. I like this better than Predator. This is my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger film. All right, quality. Film is presented in 1.85.1 widescreen, and actually is in 1.85.1 widescreen. It's been a long time since I've seen the non-Studio Canal releases from Lionsgate. But every single Studio Canal release has always been at 1.85. Maybe back in the early days of DVD, when Live Entertainment released, then Live Entertainment came Lionsgate and you had the special edition DVD. Maybe those actually were modified to 1.78, but the previous Blu-ray release and this Blu-ray release, the film's in 1.85, which I am happy about. It is presented in Dolby Atmos. It does have, obviously, a 2.0 DTS HDMA. It does not have a 5.1 DTS HDMA, but you do have the option of a DTS master audio version of the original sound presentation that it had in 1990. I refer to Dolby Atmos. All right, the picture. This is the best picture this is the best picture has ever looked. It's always been washed down. The color's always kind of been very fuzzy and stuff like that in previous releases, except for the previous Studio Canal release in which it looked pretty good. This looks amazing. Now, the thing people have a problem with, because people really want to rant the fucking hell out of this release, they want to say bad things about it. All right. May I remind you who Paul Verhoeven is? The director Paul Verhoeven loves to do this. He loves to use clay figures and miniaturized effects. And so, bottom line, people, his visual effects are really shitty. I mean, come on, using the clay figure and knocking them out of what obviously is a miniaturized window when RoboCop kills our main villain at the very end of the movie. You can tell how fucking fake it is. Please don't slow it down. You'll see. All right. Do you really think that you can take effects like that? And there's plenty of them in this movie. You could go ahead and take effects like that. They have puppets and clay figures, miniaturized effects and stuff like that. Put them into 2K or 4K for that matter, and it actually will look good. No, of course not. That's why it looks the way it does. But in terms of the picture itself, the movie, this 4K restoration is fucking amazing. It's really fucking cool. And as for Dolby Atmos, like I said, it requires you to turn your sound system up to 70 knots. Turning your sound system up to 70 knots, you got great overhead effects, you got great bass rumbling effects, you got great stereo effects and mono effects and surround effects if you have those. This definitely is a good Dolby Atmos mix, especially for a 1990 movie. And well, that's pretty much all there is to say about Total Recall. After hearing my opinion and hearing what I have to say about what people are complaining about the movie, now you kind of know what they're complaining about, what they really are complaining about. And I can say it's not this transfer's fault at all. This turning sound system up to 70 knots. Understand that Paul Verhoeven really does like his really shitty looking effects of being cheap, because that's what he does. He makes cheap guerrilla movies, and he always does that. Even with this new film like Starship Troopers, you still have this type of crappy visual effects in Starship Troopers. So there you go. I'll see you guys next time for my next review.